Chapter 3, Section 2, Distinctions of the Superior Races. Surely we do not admit the distinction of the superior races to be what is suggested by thee, a classification established by difference of bodies, the gods being distinguished by ethereal bodies, the daemons by aerial bodies, and souls by bodies pertaining to the earth. Such an arrangement would be like the assigning of Socrates to a tribe when he was a Prytanis, and is not proper to be admitted in regard to the divine races, which are all by themselves unbound and free. To make bodies their own first causes as to their specific nature appears to be a fearful absurdity, for they are subservient to these causes and subject to the conditions of generated existence. Footnote 2. The Prytanis of Athens were 50 in number, and were selected from the Boule, or Senate. Socrates, at the age of 60, was chosen to that dignity. Footnote 3. The Chaldean theology did not unequivocally describe all the gods as unbound. The 7 cosmocrators, or rulers of the world, the lords of the zodiacal houses, and the cosmic gods assigned to regions of the world, were bound to their respective jurisdictions. Further still, the races of superior beings are not in the bodies, but govern them from outside. Hence, they do not undergo changes with the bodies, yet they give from themselves to the bodies every such good as the latter are able to receive, but they themselves receive nothing from the bodies. Hence, they cannot have received from them any peculiarities. For if they were as habits of the bodies, or as material forms, or some other body-like quality, it might be possible for them, perhaps, to undergo change together with the different conditions of the bodies. But if they pre-exist separate from bodies and unmingled with them, what rational distinction originating from the bodies can be developed in them? In fact, this proposition in regard to these races makes the bodies actually superior to the divine races, since by such a hypothesis they furnish a vehicle for the superior causes, and fix in them the peculiarities incident to their essence. Nevertheless, it is plain that if the allotments, distributions, and assignments of those that govern are arranged with those that are governed, this authority will be given to the more excellent. For it is because those that are placed over others are such that they receive thereby such an allotment, and give this a specific character. But the essence itself does not become assimilated to the nature of the corporeal receptacle. Footnote 4. The pre-existence of the soul in the eternal world, before becoming involved in the genesis and conditions of the earth life, was generally believed. Even after being set free at death, it was supposed to be, after a period of less or greater length, again attracted back to the mundane sphere. Plato illustrates this by the vision of Eros in the Republic. The choice of the earthly condition is made by the soul itself, and very generally it differs from what it had been in the preceding term of life in the world. The cause is in him who makes the choice, and the divinity is without blame in the matter. Eros adds that after the souls had chosen their new lives according as they drew the lots, they all went in their order to Lachesis, and she gave to every one the daemon that he had chosen, and sent the daemon along with him to be the guardian genius of his life, and the accomplisher of the fate which he had chosen. Then he was born anew into the earth. Hence I may speak as regards this subject in its turn, but a supposition of this kind must be admitted in respect to the imperfect soul. For such a mode of living as the soul projected, and such an ideal as was ready before entering into a human body, there is a corresponding organic body joined to it, and a similar nature which receives its more perfect life. Footnote 5. The cause or incentive for the coming of the soul into generated life is variously explained by different writers. According to Plotinus, the universal soul does not come to a body as the body may come to it, nor does the body contain the soul, but is contained by it. Iamblichus accepted the statement of Iamblichus that the soul projects certain lives for itself. In respect to the superior races and those which as being universal include the origin of all, the inferior ones are produced in the superiors, the corporeal and the incorporeal, and being encompassed by them in one circle, are governed by them. Hence, the revolutions of the heavenly spheres have been induced originally by the ethereal soul, and are always inherent in it. Footnote 6. The stars and planets were regarded as abodes, or receptacles of souls. The souls of the world, also being extended to their own mind, are absolutely encompassed by it, and primarily generated in it. In like manner also, the mind, both that which is divisible into attributes and qualities, and that which is entire, is included as essential quality of the superior races. Hence, the secondary races, being always turned toward the primary, and the superiors leading the inferiors as exemplars, essence and ideal, come to the lower races from those which are superior, and those which are ignoble are produced primarily in the more excellent. Hence, accordingly, order and proportion come from the latter to the inferior races, and these are what they are through the former. But there is no transmitting of peculiarities from the inferior races to those which precede them. Such a classification, therefore, based on corporeal conceptions, is shown by these arguments to be false. Even though in this case it may seem otherwise to thee, the false assumption is not worthy of a word. Such a case does not exhibit abundant argument, but one belabors himself to no purpose if he puts forth hypotheses and then endeavors to refute them as not being true. For in what way is essence, which is absolutely incorporeal, having nothing in common with the bodies that partake of it, to be distinguished from such bodies? Not being in any way present with the bodies as a matter of place, how is it to be separated by places after the corporeal manner? And not being separated by circumscribed divisions of subject matter, how is it to be held in a divided condition by the divisions of the world? But what is more, what is there that can hinder the gods from going everywhere? What is there to hold their power in check, from extending to the vault of the sky? For this would be the work of a cause far mightier than the one shutting them in, and circumscribing them within certain parts. Real being, that which truly is, and which is in itself incorporeal, is everywhere, wherever it pleases. Yet, as thou takest for granted, that which is divine and which transcends all things is itself transcended by the perfectness of the entire world, and is encompassed by it in a specific division, and hence is inferior in respect to bodily dimensions. Yet, if there is no divine creation and no participation of divine ideals extending through the whole world, I do not see, for my part, any opportunity for a creating and framing of them after specific forms. In short, however, this opinion which banishes the presence of the superior races entirely from the earth is an abrogating of the sacred rites and theurgic communion of the gods with human beings. For it says nothing else that the divine ones dwell apart from the earth, that they do not commingle with human beings, and that this region is deserted by them. Consequently, according to this reasoning, we priests have never learned anything whatever from the gods, and since we differ in nothing from other men, thou hast not done right in questioning us as though we knew more than others. Not one of these statements of thine, however, is sound, for neither are the gods limited to parts of the earth, nor are the inferior races about the earth excluded from their presence. On the contrary, the superior races are characterized in this way, that they are encompassed by nothing, and that they encompass all things in themselves. But those that belong to the earth have their being in the perfections, pleromas, of the gods, and when they become fit for the divine communion, they at once, prior to their own essence, possess the gods that pre-existed in it. That this entire classification is false, that this plan of investigating peculiarities is irrational, and that the notion of distributing the gods, each to a certain region, does not permit the receiving of the entire essence and power which are in them, we have fully established. It would have been right, therefore, to admit the dissenting inquiry in regard to the distribution of the superior races, as it contradicts nothing in regard to the true conceptions. On the other hand, our attention should be directed instead to the intelligent perception of matters relating to the gods, and not to the holding of a discussion with a man. And for this reason, we shall adapt the present discourse to the disposing of subjects of probability and matters relating to the gods.